I muted myself. Hey guys, good evening. Hey Mike.
Hey, Cece, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? We need to
I'm
find
good,
our.
thank you.
Can you see the chat? I mean, you don't have to look at it, but I was just wondering.
I could. I hope everything's updated. Hello, everyone. How's everyone tonight?
Okay, let's just say hi to everyone. Samara, Jenna Moon, Charlie Girl says, Grandma Ducky, thank you for the super chat. Lisa Irwin, Lori Staggs, Sapphire, Shay, Cement Shoes, Light Feather, Booze Love. How's everyone doing tonight? Okay, so tonight we're going to be doing part two on the JonBenet Ramsey case, and we're going to be discussing some of the suspects. Before we get started, I just want to read a short little thing to give like a little backstory. Okay, so the murder of 6-year-old beauty pageant princess JonBenet Ramsey has continued to grip the world since it happened in 1996. JonBenet was discovered dead in her home in Boulder, Colorado in 1996 on December 26, just a day after Christmas. When she died, she was only 6 years old and was discovered by her father, John Ramsey, 8 hours after she was reported missing. More than 2 decades later, the police have no clue as to what happened that fateful night, while the killer or killers remain at large. This has resulted in numerous conspiracy theories and headlines hoping to answer the $1,000,000 question: who killed JonBenet Ramsey? And tonight we're going to talk about some of the suspects in the case. And Mike is going to be telling us all about them tonight. You want to just jump into it, Mike?
Sure, no problem. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about a few suspects in the JonBenet Ramsey case. The first one I'm going to start off with is a Michael Helgoth. He was a junkyard worker. He was a, quote unquote prime suspect at the time in the murder of JonBenet. For many years, Helgoth was named in a theory which stated that there were two intruders in the kidnapping case that went wrong. However, before his death in 1997, Helgoth had claimed that he and his partner would be making about $50,000 to $60,000 apiece, in which Helgoth called a killer deal over the same Christmas which JonBenet passed away. The overall amount did match what was on the ransom note found at the Ramsey home. However, the deal did not come through post the murder. It was said that Halgoth changed his appearance and got a buzz cut, which was very different from his long blonde hair that he had. The district attorney announced that they had narrowed down on the list of suspects in January of 1997. Then 2 days later, Halgoth was found dead with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. So, after Alex Hunter made that, news conference about the list narrowing down on the suspects, Halgoth was reported, suicide. But if you go through all the information, it more so looks like a homicide, not a suicide.
Right.
Go
Um,
ahead. I'm sorry.
so it says before his death in 1997, he had claimed that he and a partner would be making $50,000 to $60,000 each in what he called a killer deal over the same
Correct.
Christmas in which JonBenet died.
Yes.
Do you know what he was
To
talking about?
I don't per se. However, this is what a friend slash worker reported.
Mhm.
That was their conversation.
Yeah.
You know, to what he was meaning towards that, I don't know. I don't think anybody will really ever know since he is dead. Um, but the conclusion with Michael Helgoth is that the DNA was not a match, and they did collect DNA at the crime scene, of his death.
Right. So, did he live nearby? He did live nearby, right?
Yes, he did live nearby, if I'm not mistaken. Um, he was in Colorado. I'm not sure if he was in Boulder per se, but I know he wasn't far from the Ramseys.
Right.
He was a strange person in general. He used to attack the animals at the junkyard and shoot cats and all kind of crazy stuff. Um, his girlfriend reported that she came home one day and he was laying in bed naked with her daughter and said that he couldn't be trusted with her
Oh my god.
alone. That's yeah, that's he was very very strange and odd for sure.
So it says he actually changed his appearance after JonBenet was murdered. He got a buzz cut, and it was a very different haircut from what he was used to wearing. His hair was usually long. He had long blonde hair. That is strange.
Yeah, like I said, don't
But
know why. Things kind of do seem weird with the case and him. But
mhm,
they did collect his DNA at the crime scene and did test it, and they didn't find a match for it.
right, right. Okay. So if the
So
DNA doesn't match, can't be him, even though he's a weirdo.
yes, definitely a weirdo.
And I just want to add, if I had have been that little girl's mom and he had been laying in bed with my little girl, I'd be in prison.
Oh,
Okay.
definitely.
Hey to everyone
All
that
right.
came in late. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Get them the late slips. All
And thank
right.
you, Lori, for the super chat. Ah, crap. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. So now I'm going to move over to John Mark Carr,
Oh,
which was the school teacher. So in 2006, former school teacher John Mark Carr had randomly confessed to the murder of JonBenet in graphic and sexual detail, and as a result was arrested in Thailand. Carr had been staying in Thailand after facing child pornography charges in the United States. Carr got himself involved in the case after reaching out to a University of Colorado Boulder professor named Michael Tracy about the documentary that Tracy was making. In one of the emails, he revealed his sexual fascination with JonBenet and was reported to authorities by Tracy, who arrested him in Bangkok. He was flown into Boulder, Colorado for questioning, but he also was cleared when his DNA did not match the profile of the unknown male found on JonBenet's clothing, which Mary Lacey did make that press conference and said that. Um, he was another strange character. I'll say.
oh my God.
I I think that he just really wanted a free ticket back to the United States from Thailand, um, and that's why he did that. And I think he did have a sick obsession with JonBenet. Like I said, he was facing child pornography charges, so he clearly had an issue and problem with that. But I think he just had a very sick twisted obsession with her, and just try to get that 5 seconds of fame, as I like to call it.
He is a complete freaking weirdo, and he got a first-class ticket back to the United States. And when they went over to arrest him, they was staking out the scene, they were watching him. And he was talking to those young girls at the school, and it looks like he had set his sights on one of them, if you know what I mean. Now, I watched a
Yes, he.
documentary that was talking about that John Mark Carr actually had a weirdo friend that was in Boulder at the time JonBenet was killed. And the theory was that those two could have been working together. Oh, here comes my dog.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, there are many theories out there.
Mm-hmm.
None are wrong, none are right. There's a bunch of theories.
Right.
But like I said, he was cleared from the DNA, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, got a sex change. If
Yeah.
afterwards, he's just a very strange person.
Oh, did he
Another one, anyway.
transition? I didn't know that. He is strange. I watched him in one of
I
his
believe,
interviews, and he was like, I love JonBenet. I didn't mean to hurt her. He's such a weirdo.
yeah, a sick obsession. That's what that was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Okay.
wouldn't I wouldn't want him living in my neighborhood.
Neither would I. All right, so I am going to now go on to Linda Huffman Pew, which was the Ramsey housekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so Linda Hoffman Pew had been working for the Ramsey family. Pew suspected that JonBenet's mother, Patsy, was responsible for JonBenet's death. Patsy claimed that Pew was responsible because she was in need of money and requested a loan of $1,000. So it's kind of like, Patsy was blaming Linda, but then Linda was blaming Patsy for the crime. I guess like a tit for tat type thing.
Yeah.
It was reported that Pew led JonBenet into the basement to try and trick the Ramseys for ransom money, as mentioned as a note found at the scene. Given that Pew was familiar with the home as well as the family's schedule, she became a suspect. I think Linda was one of the first people that Patsy Ramsey said was, probably the killer.
Yeah.
Just because of needing the loan money and knowing the layout of the house. But she didn't even really know the layout of the house, Linda, because she didn't even know that that room in the basement was even there
Yeah.
until like maybe like that month. But also Linda was clear as being a suspect in the murder of JonBenet. Her DNA did not match. She did numerous amounts of handwriting, and none of that matched either. And also, Linda did testify before the grand jury in September of 1999.
Oh, wow. What did
She
she
was one of the
testify,
people
I
that did
wonder?
get to testify.
We don't know what she testified, though, do we?
No, that's the thing. We do not.
Okay, how about her husband, Mervyn? Is his name Mervyn?
Yes, I believe her husband's name is Mervyn. I'm more than sure that her husband was cleared as well, because I think they both were each other's alibi.
Right.
And I think he might have only been to that home a couple of times. just for like small things around the house to help Linda.
Right. Is it so she didn't have a credible alibi. Linda didn't, right? But all the
I
evidence around her was basically circumstantial.
Yeah, it was basically, you know, Patsy pointing the finger. Um, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Ramseys even put Linda in their book, if I'm not mistaken. Which they did name another suspect that we're going to talk about in their book too,
Oh, okay.
a little later on.
And have you read their book? You
Okay.
have.
I have not read their book, only because I, heard throughout the years things in their book. I personally would not waste my money, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. So, and everybody else. In
Okay.
their book, can't think of the name of it right now because it's just a book of bogus in my opinion. Um, John writes in his book that while he was upstairs in either Burke's room or another room, he was staring out of a window and saw a white truck up the alleyway, and he thought to himself, "Is that the truck of the killers? Is JonBenet in that truck? Is that the truck watching our house?" If you thought all of these things while you were staring out the window with binoculars, mind you, wouldn't you run down to the police that are in your home and say, "Hey, there's this weird white truck in the alleyway"? Like, he didn't do that. He completely didn't do any of that. But he wrote it in his book.
Right. That is weird. That's the first time I've ever heard that. I thought Burke was asleep.
I think this was once Burke left and went to the family friend house afterwards.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's when John was upstairs, like looking out the windows. He claims with binoculars in the book, and that's when he just saw the white truck up the alley, and he thought the killers could be in there, but never notified police about it during that entire morning or afternoon.
Wow.
Which it's just weird, if you thought that then, why didn't you do something about it at that moment? If you thought it was weird that it was there. So I would personally not waste my time reading that book, only because it's just a book of bogus to me, in my
Right.
opinion.
Right.
um, somebody else might have read it or want to read it, and that's perfectly fine. But I personally probably will never. Um, like I said, I read James Kohler's book, which is a foreign faction who really kidnapped JonBenet. Read that book, thought it was great, and I did read Detective Steve Thomas's book. Can't think of the actual name of it right now. I apologize, but I did read his book, and his book was pretty good as well.
Right. I'll have to read that. At least one of them. The whole case is crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
their daughter's found murdered in the basement 8 hours after she's reported missing. They don't talk to police right away. The first people they talk to is they give a news interview. Anyways, I digress. Go ahead, Mike, with your suspects.
you're fine. You're fine. All right, so now I'm gonna go on with Bill McReynolds, which he was the town Santa.
Okay.
Which he is now the late Bill McReynolds because he has passed away. He was also a suspect in the murder of JonBenet. The week before the murder, McReynolds had dressed up as the local Santa and entertained children at a Christmas gathering. It is reported that McReynolds paid a little too much attention to JonBenet and had supposedly chosen JonBenet to be his special friend. It is also believed that he brought a vial of glitter gifted to him by JonBenet to his heart surgery, And then, in a strange twist, he asked his wife to mix the glitter with his ashes if he were to pass away.
Wow.
Yeah, a little weird, in my opinion. However, there was absolutely no evidence to link him to the murder of JonBenet, and his DNA did not match either. And like I said, he had that heart surgery, and doctors said that there was no way he would have been able to do all of that things after having that surgery.
Also, his daughter had disappeared like on Christmas night, right? Like 20 some years
Mm-hmm.
before JonBenet. And also, his wife had, she wrote like I think it was like a play. And in the
It
play,
was,
a
yeah.
little girl is murdered in a basement. That's so weird. Plus, they
Yeah,
had a daughter that disappeared Christmas night 20 some years before JonBenet. That's just so weird to me. But the DNA didn't
yeah.
match,
His
right?
wife, it did not, no. But you're right. His wife did write a play about a little girl being molested and murdered in a basement, which is very odd, obviously because of the case.
Yep.
And his daughter, years, years and years prior,
Yeah.
I believe it was her and a friend were kidnapped, and either the friend or the daughter, one of them was molested by whoever kidnapped them. Which was just it's very weird, from the circumstances of the case, obviously. But like I said, he was not a match, and doctors said that there was no way after having the heart surgery he would have been able to do all of those things.
Right. Cement shoes. Bill McReynolds' wife, cement shoes. I don't know if I thought it was a play. It could have been a short story. Okay.
Yeah, it was Bill McReynolds' wife.
Anyway, short story or
Okay.
play. It's totally weird.
Yeah, definitely weird. All right, so we will now go on with Gary Oliva. They kind of labeled him as the town drifter. Gary Oliva was a known sex offender in Boulder, Colorado, when JonBenet died. It is alleged that a magazine cutout of JonBenet was discovered in his backpack after he was caught on drug charges in 2000. According to Oliva's high school friend, Oliva had confessed to him saying, "I heard a little girl, I heard a little girl." It was also rumored that Oliva had connections to a theory which linked the marks found on JonBenet's body to an encounter with a stun gun. Oliva did have a stun gun at the time of his initial arrest, but once again, he was also cleared by DNA testing.
Yeah, just another weirdo obsessed with the little girl that was
Oh,
murdered.
definitely,
Wow.
definitely. Well, he's a sex offender, you know, and I believe they had a small little memorial outside of the Ramsey home for JonBenet after all that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a photo of him outside, during that memorial. They did capture a photo of him there.
Oh my God, that is so weird. Now, him and John Mark Carr do not know each other, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Gary Oliva, I think, was just somebody who was just basically, I don't want to say homeless. I think he basically was homeless.
Yeah.
Um, and he was a, like I said, sex offender, pedophile. He was just a weirdo, another obsessed weirdo.
Wow.
And
God.
his friend that he went to high school with, that he confessed, that he hurt a little girl. Um,
Mhm.
during their calls and stuff, he would say the weirdest things, and he made these drawings up of little girls, very, very sick things, very sick things.
And you have to wonder, did these weirdos become obsessed with her because of all of her pageant pictures and all the, grown up costumes? Um, I don't know.
But,
You'd have to be a
probably
weirdo to be attracted to a child, a monster.
I 100% agree. Um, those pageant pictures and those pageants are basically like a pedophile's dream,
Mhm.
which is completely sick and disgusting. Um, but they're sex offenders, they're pedophiles, and they are clearly have an obsession.
Yeah, like when we watch like a show like Toddlers and Tiaras, we see little girls in makeup, pretending, to be, different characters. Sometimes they'll be like in little safari outfits, some in showgirl outfits. We just see kids doing make believe, right? But these weirdos, it's like, sick when they watch it. Sick thoughts go through their mind. It's like a dream to them come true to see them in those little outfits.
Yes, very, very sick, very disgusting.
Now, John Ramsey spoke out about the show Toddlers and Tiaras. Yeah, he said he
Yes, I
regretted John
believe he did.
Bonet being, yeah, he regretted, her being in the pageant, but I reckon she enjoyed performing, singing, dancing, and that was like a way for her and Patsy to bond and do something fun together. But I know by watching that show that it is exhausting for those kids. Sometimes those pageants go on for a couple days.
Oh, I'm sure. I personally never watched that show. I really don't have interest. Um, but I'm sure it is, and I'm sure some of it is probably like you said, bonding for mother and daughter, and whatnot. But there are sick people out there that probably do go or do watch those shows and have sick intentions.
Right. Most of those little girls do not want to do those pageants. Their moms want them to do it.
I'm sure.
Okay, so I interrupted you. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Um, all right, so we are going to go on to Chris Wolfe, and Chris Wolfe was a journalist in Boulder that became a suspect when his girlfriend called the police and said he had stormed out of the house on Christmas night and came back the following morning with muddy clothes. He became furious when he saw the news reports of JonBenet's death on the TV. Um, but he has been cleared of all suspicion by authorities. However, the Ramseys did continue, to this day in their efforts to cast suspicion upon him by publishing a book in which Wolfe was publicly named as a murder suspect in brutal and horrific slaughter of their daughter. Um, Now, Chris Wolfe did sue the Ramseys for that. Okay,
Really?
and yes, he did sue them for putting him in their book, labeling him as a murder suspect. Authorities did clear him, and that's kind of where handwriting analysis expert Sina Wong came in. Sina Wong, studied the ransom notes, studied Chris Wolfe's handwriting, and studied Patsy Ramsey's handwriting, and that is when she found over 200 similarities to Patsy Ramsey's writing and the ransom note writer's writing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the Ramsey lawyer kind of got wind of that, and he went to the judge and said that Sina Wong wasn't, certified and really didn't have the credentials to, testify in court, and and everything. So she never actually got to do that for that case,
Right.
sadly.
But there were other handwriting experts, right? Several other ones that said it was Patsy's, correct?
Oh yeah, there were several. Um, trying to say there were. Trying to think of them off the top of my head. Um, Tina Wong. There was a Gideon Epstein, Don Foster, Tom Miller, and Chet Ubowski was another, and oh God, what's the other guy's name? Uh, David Liebman. There were multiple people that studied her handwriting and the ransom note writer's writing, and they all agree that it was highly probable that she was the ransom note writer.
Right. It looks like her handwriting. It looks like she was sloppy writing. It actually looks like it was wrote with maybe her left hand.
Yeah, that's what they believe. They believe she wrote with her left hand, tried to disguise and write sloppy as she possibly could have, and then as she kind of they notice how the note's sloppy and everything, but then it starts getting kind of semi normal towards like the couple the end pages.
Yeah.
But like I said, Cena Wong, she had over 200 similarities for Patsy Ramsey and the ransom note handwriting, and you know she thinks it was
And
her.
Patsy was known to be able to use her right and left hand right to write with.
Yes, she was reported by her high school teacher to be ambidextrous. Correct.
Wow. Interesting. She definitely
And
wrote
then
that.
there's just one other. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. In my, like I said, in my opinion. Um, and then there's just one other little random suspect that I want to just mention. His name was Randy Simmons. He was a photographer who had been hired by the Ramseys in June of 1996 to take photographs of JonBenet in her pageant clothes.
Yeah.
Randy Simmons sold JonBenet's portfolio to Sigma Photo Agency for $7,500 after her death. And then a year later, he was arrested for walking naked in the street, crying that I did not kill JonBenet.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. He was then hospitalized, and they just didn't consider him a suspect. I don't know if they did DNA testing, but I think they just labeled him as another crazy, basically.
Wow. Gosh, the weirdos that had access to this kid.
Many, yes, many.
Wow. Gosh. And just think, the whole time he was sitting there taking pictures of JonBenet, he was probably thinking all kinds of weirdo thoughts. Ugh, makes me sick.
Me too. I agree with you.
So is that your
So
list?
they
Do you
are
have
actually, they're actually my list of main suspects that were very, popular at the time. That I had there. I'm not sure if you have anything or if we want to do some questions like last time or not. It's totally up to you.
I have one more here. I'll read it since
Okay,
I
go ahead.
didn't know about it. Okay, let me get it here. Todd Fuss. He was a pageant dad. According to one theory, a 68-year-old Colorado woman, Bernice Johnson, who was locked up in prison at the Denver Women's Correctional Facility, claimed that her baby daddy, Todd Fuss, had some role to play in the JonBenet Ramsey case. Given that their child was possibly part of the same pageant, Todd may have possibly been at the same location and event as JonBenet on a few occasions. Bernice Johnson recalled a time when she caught Todd leaning on a doorframe where some older little girls were getting dressed. She then asked Todd, "Don't you think it would be a little weird if some strange man was watching your little girl get dressed and put makeup on?" Which resulted in him cursing and lashing out. Johnson also claimed that Todd had revealed he was coming into some money around the same Christmas when JonBenet was killed. However, Johnson is of the opinion that there is no way that Todd acted alone and that he had help from someone. While this claim itself led to a whole new theory of multiple killers, Todd was cleared after his DNA did not match with the crime. I had never heard of this guy until the other day when I was reading this. That's
Yeah,
weird.
I'm not really
I mean,
familiar.
if you can trust this woman's word, I mean, she is locked up in a Denver's uh, women's prison. I don't know what for.
Well, yeah.
Like 68 years old. How old was she when she had a child? Not that it matters, but anyway, yeah, we'll answer some questions now if you want to, if anyone has any, or read some comments.
Sure. I think Light Feather said she had a question.
Okay, ask away, Light Feather. Grandma Ducky says, "I thought it would be too odd for an intruder to be hanging out in the house and writing that long letter. But look at that military man in Canada. He did." Oh my gosh, I know who you're talking about, Grandma Ducky, and he is a complete freaking weirdo. He'd steal women's panties so he could wear them himself.
Oh, wow, that's sick.
And ever who wrote the ransom letter sit there and practice writing it first. What kind of intruder is going to do
Yes,
that?
there was a
Most
practice
intruders,
note
they're going to
found.
take a kid. Yeah, if they're going to take a kid from the house, they go in and get the kid and they're gone. Just like in the Elizabeth Smart case. He went and got her, he was gone. I mean, why even write the ransom letter? He never even took her out of the house to kill her. He, she, ever who it was.
Yeah, you have to kind of think to yourself, if there was an intruder in there, um, and he knew that, he killed her, why still leave the ransom note and, behind?
Right. Okay, here's Light Feather's question. I have two questions. I heard that in the basement there was a suitcase next to her body with a book and blanket with DNA on it.
Okay. So, Light Feather, yes, that is true. There was a suitcase in the basement, um, under the window of the basement window, with a blanket and a book. That is correct. The blanket had John Ramsey's son, John Andrew Ramsey's semen on that blanket, as well as a Dr. Seuss book, and that book was "Oh, the Places You Will Go." Not sure why that was there. Can't really answer that. Next to her body, though, we do know that she was obviously wrapped up in that white blanket. She did have her favorite pink Barbie nightgown. And there also, which it's very hard to find pictures of, but there were also presents in that room with her that were partially ripped open.
Hmm. That's strange. I never knew that there were presents in there. Personally, when I hear that there was a blanket inside that suitcase with semen and a Dr. Seuss book, it makes me think that someone may have been molesting her, luring her down there with the book. I'm just speculating. And then molesting her. I think JonBenet was being molested, but not by her father. That's all I'm going to say. It's a lot better. That would have been true. There was a
Yeah,
blanket with semen. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, Life Heather, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Just later on down, she put
Okay.
true or false, and I was like, yeah, true. One neighbor said they saw
Okay.
him then recanted. But young boys have fluid, but no sperm. This was the sperm of uh, John Ramsey's oldest son, John
Correct.
Andrew Ramsey.
Correct.
Okay, Stacy had wrote something in the chat. Okay, then
There also.
she says
Yeah.
one neighbor said they saw him, then recanted. Brothers were grooming. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to go off of what Stacy was saying. A neighbor did say that they saw someone run from the house that night, but then they did recant that statement.
Yeah, and
But
one neighbor said that they heard a child screaming and then recanted, right?
yes, that is true too. They heard a scream somewhere, I believe, around midnight and 2 a.m. But they said it was definitely a young girl, and as soon as they heard it, that's how fast it stopped.
Right. Why would she say that and then recant it?
Yeah, we don't know, unfortunately, sadly.
Yeah. On this list of suspects I got, it's got Burke Ramsey on it. And of course, it just goes on to say that they think that Burke killed his sister using a flashlight. Um, JonBenet, they believe JonBenet had taken a slice of fruit from Burke's snack, which led to his attack. Um, that's it. This says all members of the Ramsey family were cleared as suspects after 3 pieces of male DNA were found on JonBenet's clothing in 2008.
Well,
You still there?
this episode, Mary Lacey's declaration letter literally means nothing going forward.
I can't. You're cutting out. I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little bit robotic, but I guess we'll be all right.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of sounded a little bit as well earlier. How do I sound now?
You sound better.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, I'm going to answer Sapphire's question there. She said, was there something about a baseball bat? So, yes, there was. There is a photograph also that you could find. There was a baseball bat found outside of the home. The Ramseys, I believe, stated that they weren't sure if it was theirs or not. I believe a neighbor said that they did hear, like, the clinging sound of a baseball bat falling in the middle of the night. It's suspected that either that baseball bat or that flashlight that was found in the kitchen was used to, crack her head.
Wow. Um, Lot Feather, did the stepbrother move to another country after this crime?
I am not 100% sure on that answer, but I don't believe so.
Okay.
But I will say, when it comes to the stepbrother, which is John Andrew, he was silent and quiet for all of these almost 25 years, and it's just all of a sudden now he's just coming out of the woodwork and wants to, find the killer and do all of these things. But I just find it odd that, where was he all these past years?
Yeah. I had never even saw him before in any documentaries, in the newspapers or anything until this new documentary. Okay. Lisa
Yeah, me
Irwin,
neither.
was it a metal baseball bat? I think so. Grandma
Yes,
Ducky, I'd like
yes.
to
It was,
know
I
what
believe, a black metal baseball bat.
a black metal one. Grandma Ducky says she'd like to know why JonBenet's dad's semen was on her blanket. I didn't know it was.
I didn't know it was her dad's either. I was, throughout the years of learning information, that it was John Andrew Seaman on that blanket, which was her stepbrother.
Yeah, that's what I read too. It's just so strange to have a blanket with semen on it in a Dr. Seuss book hidden in a basement, in a suitcase, in a room where JonBenet was killed. That is so weird. When you first told me about
Yeah,
that, the first thing that went through my mind is, well, the book is there with that blanket because someone was luring her down to the basement to molest her. That's what I thought.
and
That's just my
that could be a strong
opinion.
possibility. We don't know. Um, but John Andrew has an alibi from his mother stating that he was with, her on Christmas, and apparently they have an ATM transaction from him that he was not in Boulder that night.
Right. I heard him say that he was actually on a plane when he got the news that John Bonet had been murdered.
So, you know, we don't know, but it's very odd that that was there during that time. It's very
Yeah.
strange.
Well, he may have an alibi for that night, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't have been messing with her. I'm not accusing him, but I just find that so strange. Semen on a blanket with a Dr. Seuss book hidden away. Something's not right with that. Stacy, I'm not going to read that
Oh,
out. Your last
definitely.
one. Lisa Irwin, don't be weird, be cool. Yeah, don't be a weirdo, be a cool kid. So I'm just wondering if John Andrew is trying to start like any kind of new company or anything like that. Maybe he needs some publicity for it. That's why he's speaking out right now.
Well, he's basically, said his father's getting older now, so now he's gonna, take charge and, follow in his father's footsteps. Um, but hey, if my sister was murdered in my family's home and, found in the basement, I wouldn't start 24, 25 years later to try to find a killer. I would be working, with my family from the start, trying to find a killer.
Yeah.
Not wait all these years later to now come on TV and, say, oh,
Hmm.
I'm gonna, follow my father's footsteps and determined to find the killer. It's just all very odd.
Right. Yeah, it is odd. I mean, it's odd how the parents didn't want to cooperate. I mean, your daughter's been murdered in your home, and you don't want to sit down and cooperate. You want to take the first flight out of there, honey. I mean, that's just something strange about that. I believe they covered for someone. I don't think that Patsy or John killed JonBenet. I do think Patsy wrote that note, though, and I think they covered for someone. What do you think about people trying
Yes,
to read
I will agree
JonBenet's
with you.
spirit? What do you think about mediums that try to talk to JonBenet's spirit?
Um, huh.
You don't
I
have to answer if you
I
don't want.
believe that there. I'll just be nice about it and just say, I do believe that there are people out there that, possibly can have that gift of
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah,
Do I think some of the people on YouTube that do that are legit? Not really.
yeah,
Um, some of them you can kind of just tell it's just a
yeah.
little, bogusy to me.
I know I've watched several channels and they'll be predicting these cases and they'll always be freaking wrong. I do believe some people have special gifts. I do. But there's a lot of fakes out there. I seen Sapphire ask something. Is there any information available about this case, like discovery or any part of the investigation gathered in one place? Well, I think there's only a couple pages they released of the indictment. Um, I read them last time. I do have those still, but I don't think there's anything else, is there? There's not like a discovery. There's the autopsy.
Well, is she talking about TV, the Discovery Plus channel?
No, like the discover, like in the discovery, like the documents, court documents.
Oh, court documents.
Yeah,
Um, we do have transcripts of, when they were interviewed. We do have documents like that. We do have the ransom note document. We do have the indictment documents. Um, Trying to think. There is the autopsy document as well. Trying to think. There's a bunch of different documents. Honestly, there's all of the handwriting experts' documents stating their theory of Patsy being the ransom note writer. There are documents that you can find. Sometimes they're a little harder than others, but you can find documents of this information.
right. Um, how many people had the keys to the house? Excuse me, lady. My dog's bothering me.
Um,
I think there were several
I
people that had.
believe there were. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say I believe there were several people.
Yeah, they had quite a few keys made for that house, and there were quite a few people that did have keys. Um, I think there were about 12 keys made, and I think they couldn't find three of those keys,
Wow.
or account for three, I should say.
I saw a comment today and this person was theorizing that someone was already in that house before the Ramseys returned home from that little Christmas party, dinner, whatever. That someone was already in the house and done had the ransom note written. I was like, no.
And like I said, that could be a possibility. But where's the proof? where is the proof of the intruder?
Right.
You know, the TV documentaries that they have, you know, show you like, oh, this is the intruder, this is the information, but it's not real. It's they don't tell you things that are real. Like obviously the blanket with John Andrew Seaman and the Dr. Seuss book. They don't tell you that on the TV.
Right. No, they sure don't. Okay, Light Feathers has one more question. What's your thoughts on the female detective? The female detective that believed that the father, that John did it. She said she believed that he did it like that morning. What's her name? Her name is Linda,
um,
isn't it?
Linda Arndt, yeah,
Damn, she's got some crazy eyes,
Detective
man.
Linda Arndt.
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what interview Lightfeather is referring to.
Uh-huh.
She did say that, you know, after John brought JonBenet out from the basement and they were kneeled down, and, you know, after she like looked in his eyes, she just knew that, you know, he did it. And, you know, I think she said she grabbed her gun and was holding onto her gun and counting how many bullets that she had, and, you know, that she was afraid because she didn't know if everyone was going to be alive once the cops actually got there. You know, it's a strong possibility that John possibly did give her a look of some sort. Um, Maybe it was a look of guilt or a look of, you know, it could have been anything.
Right. And it was her first homicide case, and she really messed up bad. For one, she didn't secure the crime scene. Everybody should have been put into one room and been made stay there. Instead, she sent John and his friend looking around the house. And John's friend had checked the basement, and he had opened the room or the door to the room JonBenet was in, and he didn't see her laying there because he said he couldn't find the light switch. So he shut the door back,
Yes,
went upstairs.
that's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. You know, I will agree. She shouldn't have let him and the friend go look around the house. Um, but it's just weird to me that, you know, she tells them, you know, search the house top to bottom. If you find anything, you know, don't touch it. And he just makes a beeline for the basement and, you know, just so happens to find his daughter, which I just find that odd that, you know, that whole time she was in the basement, you know, they said that he was very on edge that morning. You know, was he on edge
Yeah.
because he knew she was down there and couldn't take it, and that's when she told him to go look around the house. That's why he went down there, just to get it over with. You know, you have to think about that.
Right. And she told him search from
Um,
top to
Lisa
bottom,
Irwin,
and he goes to the bottom first instead of the top. That's a little strange.
Lisa Irwin said, "Where is the light switch? Light switch. The light switch for that wine cellar room was inside of the room."
Yeah. And I think that's so weird about her little favorite nightgown being with her. That's weird. It wasn't
Yeah, me
on
too.
her,
You know,
but it was just laying with her.
correct. It's just, if a pedophile, killer, whatever you want to call it, if they're going to come in and brutally attack, sexually assault a child, and do all of these horrible things, I can't picture them then grabbing a blanket and saying, "Oh, you know, I harmed you, but now let me wrap you up real nice, you know, to comfort you." I can't picture that. I just cannot.
wrapping her up in a blanket, that's something a parent would do, someone that knew her would do,
Yes,
not
they
some
said that the
strange
blanket.
weirdo.
Yes, exactly. They said the blanket looked as if somebody was using it to comfort her. Um, I just can't
Yeah,
picture a killer or a sex offender doing that. I just can't.
no. A lot of people are like, when they're talking about, if Burke did it or not, they always say, well, he wouldn't have been strong enough to have done, the garrote and made the garrote. What's your thoughts on that?
Um, Burke was in Boy Scouts. I know Boy Scouts. I believe at that time they did, teach you how to, tie knots and do, certain things. And John Ramsey did have a boat. There are nautical knots too. You learn things like that with boats. Um,
Yeah,
it's a possibility that he could have known how to tie knots and ropes and stuff like that. We just don't know. And you got to also think kids today, back then, whatever. Um, when they're super angry, they could have a little bit of strength to them. You don't know.
yeah. Kids can be stronger than what you think. My son is a lot stronger than me, but he's a big old boy. Um, were John and Patsy up all night trying to set that up? I think so, and that's why Patsy had on the same clothes from the night before. Patsy was not the type of woman to wear the same sweater and pants 2 days in a row. I mean, she was always dressed to kill. Everything matched. There was no wrinkles. So I think that she was up all night, setting this up, covering up for someone. That's why she had the same clothes on. I bet if you went and talked to anyone that knew Patsy and asked them, would Patsy have ever worn the same outfit 2 days in a row? They would say, hell no, she would have never done that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and even the police that were there after I believe they found her body, and they were going around the house and looking at everything. I think they even thought at that time that everything kind of looked staged.
Right. You're right.
Um, you know, like I said last episode, Lou Smith says a suitcase was at the window because the intruder used it to step off of and get back out through the window. But I'm sure we all know if you step on top of a suitcase and you kick off of it, it's going to fall. It's not going to stand up.
Yeah. And that suitcase, is only had a sheet and a book in it, a sheet with semen on it, which I cannot get over that. That is so freaking weird. Something
Yeah,
strange about that. Very
that was weird.
strange. Mm-hmm. The whole family's strange. Oh boy, drink it. Was Patsy drunk that night at the party? I've never heard
Um,
anything about her being
I
drunk that
don't
night.
know.
She may have had a few drinks. Nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's a possibility, but I'm not sure, so I can't really give it an actual
Right.
answer if she did or didn't.
Right. I've never heard anyone say that she was like really intoxicated. Actually, I've never heard anyone mention whether she was drinking or not. I know that she was put on some nerve medicine and stuff after John Benet's murder. Um, I don't know if she drank on those or not.
Yeah,
This has been a
I'm
good
not sure.
stream. It's been an informative stream. Thanks for coming up with me.
Oh, of course. You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
We'll have to do it again. Maybe we can talk about, I don't know what else we could talk about, but about this case. I'm sure we could find something. If you think anything, let me know.
Sure. Like I said, I believe this year will be the actual 25th anniversary. Maybe we could collab when it gets a little closer and
Oh, yeah.
see what we have then.
Oh, yeah. That would be great. That would be great. Cement Shoe says, Mike, you could write a book on the case. He really could. He knows a lot. He knows a lot about the case.
Thank you, Cement.
Well, Mike, I
I
guess
honestly
we'll.
have been studying the case for a long time.
Mhm. How many years you been studying the case?
I want to say probably about 15 years.
Damn, it's a long time. So you know this case inside and out.
Pretty much. I'm not gonna say there are some things that I may not know. Um, but I go off of the facts and what the facts show me, and the reports. I follow what other experts, in the case have stated and said. Um, and like I'll say this again, I'm not going to point the finger at anyone and say a name, but I don't believe that there was an intruder that night.
Right. People in the chat were asking who does he think did it? I don't think he wants to say, but like he said, he doesn't think that there was an intruder, and he thinks basically someone in the house did it. Someone that was in the house that night. Um, I think my opinion is Patsy and John covered for someone. I'm just going to say someone. That's my opinion.
Yeah, based on that indictment letter that we read last show, that just reads off to me that they were covering up for someone. That's just how I read it. Um, that's what I believe. I will agree with you.
Right. One more question. Stacy wanted to know what you thought about the Dr. Phil interview, what Burke said about the note.
Okay, just refresh
What
my
did
memory, Stacy, on what he said.
Stacy, what did he say about the note? He said something about his mom always said something. He had messy handwriting. I think it was Patsy. It's a crying shame said, I don't think you're going to miss two kids fighting in the middle of the night. I'd say if he is responsible, he seems like he was a little bit of a sneaky kid. He could have snuck her down to the basement real quietly because he knew if he got caught, he'd be in trouble. Let's see. Stacy said, okay, so what he said in an interview, his mom said, I always wrote sloppy. I don't know what he was talking about in that interview. I remember him saying that, Stacy.
Okay. Um, I guess in my opinion, I could just say that some of the words that were used in that note, um, I can't picture a 9-year-old boy using that. For instance, attache, I don't think a 9-year-old boy would know that word or
No,
use that word.
crap,
I
I
think
didn't even
that's,
know it.
and it's been reported that the handwriter was female. They did report that the handwriting was a female writer.
Right. Patsy, I think Patsy wrote that note. It looks just like her handwriting, but it looks like she wrote it with, like, not her writing hand. Her other hand. That's why it looks so sloppy. Oh my goodness, my dog's driving me crazy. Pacing around. Anyways, thank you, Mike, for coming up. I guess we'll wrap up this stream. I've got to get off here and see what my ladybug wants. Thank you so much for coming up.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone that was here tonight listening.
Oh, everybody enjoyed it. Everybody likes when you come up because you know your stuff about this case.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, have a good night, and everyone have a good Sunday. And I will see y'all Monday morning. Grandma Ducky, thank you so much for the super chat. I had to step away. Does anyone remember the approximate time of death? I think she is listed as dying on the 26th, right? Or the 25th.
I'm not sure if they could have concluded an approximate time of death. Somewhere they kind of did like a time range, from I think like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. But it's just odd to me that her tombstone reads the 25th of December, but they found her body on the 26th.
Had rigor mortis
that's just weird
in?
to me. Oh yeah, rigor mortis did set in.
Okay, that takes a while for that to set in. But okay, so it was like 8 hours after
Yes.
she was. I mean, it was 8 hours before she was found after she was reported missing. It's untelling how long she'd been dead before that. Yeah, the stone is the 25th.
Exactly, and the stone is the 25th. But obviously her body was found on the 26th. So you got to keep that in mind too, because the parents obviously are the people who, put all the information there for the tombstone. So, if she was found on the 26th, why not put the 26th? Why would they have put the 25th? You got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I don't know. They must have thought she died on the 25th. Maybe the coroner did. I think she probably died about 2 a.m. or something. That's my thoughts on that. For some reason, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning is what I was thinking. I could be wrong.
Sadly, hopefully this case one day will be solved.
Yeah. You never know. We could be sitting here 20 years from now and it make headlines, case solved. Who knows? Anything's possible. Anyways, guys, thanks for chatting with us tonight. Everyone, have a good night. Be safe, be kind, and peace. And thanks again, Mike, for coming up and discussing this with us.
You're welcome. Thanks again for having me. Have a good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night.